Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades, I hope you're doing well wherever you are. This is Kenyan Revolutionary. I hope you're doing well this Saturday evening, afternoon, night, morning, whatever you are. If you're in New Zealand, it's probably very early in the morning. So, karibu sana, karibu sana, karibu sana, karibu sana. Karibu. I'll give you a few minutes just to grab a seat. I know you're busy. It's a weekend. Manchester United fans, Chelsea fans, Liverpool fans, please gather around. I know you are not feeling good about what's going on. The results that happened today in the EPL, for those of you who are football or soccer enthusiasts, whatever the case is. I don't even know. But anyway, karibu guys. Karibuni sana. Let me make sure that I have my stuff ready so we can get started. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time, hold on. I hate the way my camera is kind of. All right, that's much better. Isn't that much? Yeah, it's much better. Okay, karibuni. All right, sorry for my quick setup. All right, so today I want to talk about some stuff, okay? I'm posing these questions to Kenyans. Are you ready for digital identification, IDs? Are you ready for a digital ID? And are you ready for a central bank digital currency? Are you ready for that? I know some of you might be scratching your heads. You're like, what is this? What is digital currency? What is this? It's kind of like the crypto given by the central bank. Okay, that's basically where I'm going with this. So if you know anything about crypto, which I don't know much, but I have an idea, you know what I'm talking about. It's a digital token coin that's basically it's a digital money currency that is basically controlled by the Central Bank of Kenya, whatever the case is. And ladies and gentlemen, you might think this is far-fetched. No, it's not. Actually, Raila Odinga told us about this digital thing just a few weeks ago. Was it last week that he came out and gave up that weird speech about digital token? So this is here already. Now, speaking of digital ID, this is also coming to Kenya. Why am I mentioning that this is coming to Kenya? Did you listen to what the British Prime Minister, Mr. Starmer, or whatever his name is, say that digital ID will be mandatory in the UK if you live in the United Kingdom, okay? England, Scotland, whatever, all those lands there, okay, that constitute the UK, or Britain, basically. You will be forced. It will be compulsory. It will be a must in order to function, in order to have some kind of employment, maintain your employment. If you're already employed, if you want to find a job, you have to have a digital ID. And there's a huge pushback. Within I don't know how many hours, 800,000 people have signed to push back and say, hey, listen, we do not want this digital ID thing. Now you might be asking yourself, is this really real? How will that work out? Look at China. The digital thing is well underway, and it's all about control, ladies and gentlemen. We shall talk about that, how it can affect Kenyans and how Kenyans can actually be controlled. You know, it's basically a new world order where, information about everyone will be available quickly to the powers that be. So if you haven't, let's say if they require you to have COVID vaccine or whatever, I shouldn't say that word because they might name my this live. But if you haven't taken a shot of some sort and you refuse or whatever the case is, they can actually, through this CBDCs, okay, central bank digital currency, that they can actually basically take out some. They have things called social credit and all that stuff. All this digital ID will be connected to everything: your healthcare, your bank account, and all this stuff. So if, for example, they ask that you take these shots and you refuse to take them, they can basically, freeze your account, until you get that updated, get that shot, then, things like that. So basically it's a way of control. But we shall talk about in depth without that, and I'll play you some clips where you can actually relate it to the Kenyan context. Why do I say Kenya should be, is Kenya ready for this? Kenya is always a testing ground. Okay? They're always used as piggy banks for Africa and the world at large. Okay? Remember when a few years back when they wanted to give some shot to Africa, they wanted to test some medication to Africa, and they wanted to choose Kenya as the, this was under Uhuru and Ruto. Okay? Remember the Wild Eye, whatever the case is, that people are going there wanaenda kupimwa macho na wanapewa 50 shillings, and people started saying, why are we using our folks, Why? Because Kenya, even with Ruto, you saw him in the UN, okay? By now, if you don't know about what's happening in Africa, there's some sort of revolt, okay? People are, African countries, head of states, or whatever the case is, are not friendly with France, because France are actually pushing for not only a war against Russia, but they want to control their former territories, their colonial territories. Remember, the Sahel nation kicked them out with the help of Russians, and they want to reclaim that. Okay, and that's part of the reason why they are basically raising hell being member of NATO, trying to start something with Russia, because they are mad about Russia helping Africa. Now, I just read that Russia is going to help Ethiopia with their nuclear plants. Same thing with Burkina Faso, the Sahel nations, Mali and Niger. Okay, so these are things that France do not like, because they're losing their grip on their colonies, former colonies. Well, let me not say former colonies, but their colonies, because they're still extracting minerals from these countries, okay? So that's what's making them mad. That's why you see the West and NATO are really up in arms, and anytime now, there might be an all-out war between Russia and NATO, okay? This is all because of the fight for not minerals, but the fight for resources, especially in Africa and other places. But Africa is the center of everything, because France basically depends on Africa. But I'll get to that. We are going to talk about also what is happening in Kenyan politics. I told you in my previous video that, hey, don't you find it funny that every major political party, which are basically nothing but personal briefcase political party or criminal organizations, whether it's the ODM, DCP, Jubilee, PLP, which one is the other? Name them. They're out there having their NDC, whatever that is, National Delegates Conference, whatever. And you had Uhuru Kenyatta, was it yesterday, when he came out and was blabbing about the wonderful things that he did during his tenure as a president, forgetting what a huge failure he was, just like his successor, Ruto. No difference. It's a continuation of your failures, whether it's corruption, tribalism, lawlessness, extrajudicial killings, lack of rule of law, looting, name it. There's nothing is different. We might argue about the degree in which Ruto has taken it, but there's no difference. But he stood up there and gave a 30-minute speech saying a bunch of nonsense. But again, it's to play to the gallery. And my question is, don't you find it funny that all these political parties are within a week, everybody's out there with their own National Delegates Conference, whatever. It started with Safina unveiling 18 years of nonsense. Okay? And they sounded so, they were presenting this, we are going to appoint sheriffs, we're not going to have SPDs, we're going to have sheriffs, with Willis Otieno leading the line, and what's his name? Jimmy Wanjigi telling us about the debt and how much money. We don't care about that. Anyway, let me get started. If this is your first time, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, my name is Kenyan Revolutionary. As I've said before, I talk about Kenyan politics and world politics as it relates to Kenya. So if you like that kind of content, please hit the subscribe button. We're about to get started. I will play you a bunch of stuff that you need to hear to help you navigate through politics in Kenya and worldwide, help you, your perspective on worldwide politics. I'm namna gani? So let's get started. Let's get what? Let's get started. Now, hold on for a second. Hold on. Wait a minute. We are going to start with what's making news, okay? What's making news. Now, what's making news so far, where do I start? Is Uhuru Kenyatta's speech that he gave yesterday. I mean, Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday came out and gave, like I said, a 32-minute speech in his, he was addressing his, like I said, all these political parties have something to say all of a sudden. I mean, within a week, we had Safina come out with their 18-year celebration. Then we had ODM who met in Machakos for their inter-party nonsense. Then Wamunyoro came out and, he had something, I don't know what. Then Kalonzo Musyoka went to JKL. Then Matiang'i was in, had a Ninio with Debal. Then Martha Karua also yesterday had a PLP somewhere in Nairobi, which nobody cares about. Then who else came out? ODM is celebrating their 20 years something in Kisii, where it was chaotic. We saw the real ODM, which is a criminal organization, terrorist organization to be precise. What else is happening? So we see these guys are coming out. But the one that made headlines is Uhuru Kenyatta, who came out, who spoke. I'm telling you, Uhuru Kenyatta, representing his family business, okay? The Kenyatta family's business is actually to chaperone the British colony, okay? They are the face of the British colony, okay? They're the ones who run things in Kenya. They are the ones who are put there to make sure that the British interest is actually secured, okay? So that's the role of the Kenyattas. Do not be fooled by this. That's why these guys are billionaires, dollar billionaires, okay? They're not just there by accident. They're not billionaires by accident, okay? They're the big dogs, okay? So anyway, Uhuru Kenyatta came out there and he said a couple of things. Let's just play a clip of the news that addresses this, okay? So we can get kind of, contextualize what he was saying. Then we shall talk about other things. Then I'll play you what their allies were saying and all this stuff. Then we shall get to the digital stuff that is coming to Kenya. Hold on one. All right. Let's hear it out. Hold on. Let me play you this news clip, okay? Now, again, if you're watching in secret or you're just joining me, please go ahead and subscribe, share, like, comment, and do all the good stuff as I bring you this stuff, all right? All right. Uhuru, here is Uhuru Kenyatta. Mugai mwenyewe.
Language interpreter is Belinda Phillips. Friday night starts now. In a rare public attack on his successor, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta has today accused President William Ruto of depressing the progress of the country with what he described as untested experiments, which he said are hurting Kenyans. The former president came out guns blazing, reminding Kenyans that he had warned them against electing his former deputy Ruto as president. Ex-President Kenyatta was speaking when he chaired the Jubilee Party Special National Delegates Convention in Nairobi today. Our political affairs reporter Emmanuel Tor reports.
In a blistering assessment of President William Ruto's 3-year administration, former President Uhuru Kenyatta told his party's Special National Delegates Convention in Nairobi that the country was on the reverse gear. Kenyatta said the country is on the decline and that Kenyans are suffering under President Ruto's programs.
Many of the gains we had in the past have been eroded. Linda Mama and others replaced by new, untried, untested schemes. And while we wait for these experiments to work, Kenyans suffer and our progress is retarded.
Amen. Firing from all cylinders, Kenyatta revisited the 2022 election, saying false narratives won the day on the ballot.
Na ndipo nilikuwa nawaambia hii story watu walikuwa wanazungusha sijui hasla, sijui huyu ni mtoto wa single mother. Lakini kusema ati wewe sababu wewe umezaliwa na single mother, hiyo ndio qualification yako ya kuchaguliwa. Hapana. Njoo uambie wa Kenya ni nini utawafanyia.
Uhuru also threw jabs at the broad-based political arrangement between President Ruto and the ODM leader Raila Odinga, questioning why the current president had opposed a similar handshake during his tenure.
Unfortunately, was used against us in the last campaigns, it being called an attempt to erode democracy. I wonder what they call theirs today.
In an apparent reference to police killings that characterized the Gen Z-led anti-government protests, the former head of state accused the Ruto administration of turning security resources against its own citizens.
This machine that we built, however, was not to be used and designed to face its own citizens, and it is not supposed to have been a source of fear and conflict with our citizens. Ilikuwa ya kulinda wananchi, sio kuumiza wananchi.
Kenyatta revisited his stance against his then deputy Ruto in 2022, expressing regret that his message failed.
Indeed, today, some of the truths we spoke of yesterday have become the reality check of today, while some of the myths and falsehoods have become the nightmare that many are living.
The Jubilee Party leader, who hinted at stepping down from his current role, calling on the youthful leaders to rise up to the occasion.
It is my hope today that as some of us give way, that those same young ones, with the same energy, conviction, and patriotism that we saw in the streets, you will be able to use them.
Katiba yetu inasema wewe party leader is also the president of the Republic of Kenya. Na party leader wetu hawezi kuwa president kwa sababu katiba imekataza, sio?
Sources say former CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who has declared his ambition to run for president in 2027, has already joined the Jubilee Party and is poised to be its flag bearer in the next general election. The reemergence of the Jubilee Party leader, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, is expected to cause political turbulence in the country as the party now promises to field yet another candidate in the 2027 contest with the battle lines drawn in the sand. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV from the Ngong Racecourse.
Best and worst.
All right. So a few things I want to really quickly mention about this speech by Kenyatta Uhuru. First of all, I don't know where to start. Kenyan politics is comedy. I call it tragic comedy because it's not funny, actually. It's tragic. But it's funny. But it's tragic. Basically, Uhuru Kenyatta was trying to say that, hey, listen, we left this country in a better position that it is right now, which is actually hogwash. It's nonsense, okay? And number two, the very same players that were actually running this state called Kenya, it's not a republic. Actually, at this point, it's a criminal organization. I told you, Kenya is a criminal organization at this point. It's not a republic. We are not ruled by a rule of law. We are not a constitutional democracy as we are meant to believe. We are a criminal organization. The land that we sit in is, abused, used, and the people, indigenous people, are being pushed around in every sort of direction. Abused, used, okay, and I've been suffering every kind of injustice that you can imaginable, okay? But anyway, back to the point about Uhuru Kenyatta's pronouncements there. He talked about Linda Mama, and he talked about, the security infrastructure, the structural makeup of the security apparatus in Kenya was designed to protect the wananchi, not to go against them. And he conveniently forgets. I mean, this is the games that actually making me puke when I see people come out in public and speak. It's nonsense. It's bullcrap that we are being fed, and we know it's bullcrap. But we are going to clap because this person is a billionaire. The disparity between the poor and the rich is so huge. So we have to go to the public and clap and applaud to this clown so that we can have a few cents in our pockets and have something to eat. But we all know it's bullcrap. I'm not saying this in defense of Ruto. Ruto is just as criminal, okay, complicit in the fall of Kenya's economic, state that it's in right now. These people are criminals. There's no other word to describe this. This is not a former president. This is a criminal. Ruto is a criminal. Gachagua is a criminal. Raila is a criminal. But they come there and tell us as if our memory is erased, like we are so stupid. We didn't exist between 2013 and 2022. We were alive. We know what you did. We know the people who lost their lives. We saw how you brutalized the youth, the people who came out and protested against your when you lost elections. Okay, you refused to follow the constitution. In fact, we saw your fight against the judiciary, and here you are today, standing there, with that ugly shirt, telling us that, oh yeah, we have three structures of government, okay, judiciary, whatever the case is, and they should work interdependently and they should be dependent, whatever. We remember how you didn't respect the court orders. Your top criminal lieutenant, Matiang'i, was sitting there. We know what he did in Rivayala, the bodies that were dumped there. Why are you preaching to us about Ruto, who was actually also your number two, presiding over this criminal activity that was happening then? But here you are, puffed up, standing in front of hundreds of clowns, telling us about your past criminal activity, trying to paint them as some level of success when you are president. It's a tragedy. I told you, this is a comic tragedy. It's a comedy. Unfortunately, I can't laugh because it's sad. It's a tragedy. It's tragic. It's past ridiculous. That's why I keep on telling you, these people, they are. It's amazing how we even entertain these folks. Let them give a 30-minute speech that is full of not only hypocrisy, it's downright disrespect, the contempt towards Kenyans. Thank you, Mabri. I see you. I mean, what planet are we living in? Did we forget about Uhuru's 10 years tenure? He didn't even win the election. He even said, I didn't win. He never won the elections. Uhuru Kenyatta never won the presidency. Refused to step down. And here he is standing telling Ruto, I don't know, Ruto is doing this. And Ruto was your number two. Both of you were, as a matter of fact, both of you were candidates, inductees of the ICC. Okay, now we can argue that, the ICC, International Criminal Court, is meant to, nyanyasa wa Kenya. We can make that argument. But for you two, everybody knows, if you lived in Kenya in 2008, 2007, during Kibaki's Ninio, we know that you two were involved, had a hand directly or indirectly in what happened, the atrocities that happened, the post-election violence, including Raila Odinga. But here you are, you're standing as if we had Jeffersonian democracy during your tenure. And there are people clapping. Anyway, there are people on the other side, the other clowns on the other side of the aisle. They pretending it's a game. Like I said, I usually tell you, this whole political system. That's why I started by asking you, don't you find it funny that every criminal organization that we call political parties in Kenya this week, somehow, somewhere, they had their national delegates conference saying a bunch of nothing, the usual nonsense. oh, when we take over power, we shall bring in sijui nini, we shall bring in this, there'll be justice. And they've been in power for more than 30 years and they never affected change. And they had positions where they could actually make a difference, but they did not. They had the opportunity. Ruto was a deputy president. He's a president. Uhuru was a president. He was a minister of finance. He was an MP in Gatundu, whatever the case is. Raila was MP in Kibera for I don't know how many years. He was a prime minister. He's now I don't know what. And they still talk about this nonsense. Gachagua has been in government since I don't know when. Matiang'i has brutalized people since he was I don't know what. And they're the people who are recycling their nonsensical rhetoric year in, year out, trying to convince us, oh, if I become president, we shall. But we still, anyway, let me just get myself together, okay? Of course, the other side of Ruto's allies, so to speak, came out to defend. I'm not sure who they were trying to defend, but they had something to say about what Ruto was saying. So we are going to let's listen to that. Let's listen to that nonsense. Then we shall continue because it's entertaining. It's silliness. Anyway, let's go. Let's listen to the Nino. I guess this is the rebuttal from Ruto's faithful. Okay, here it is. 20.
The pro-government legislators have fired back at former President Uhuru Kenyatta following his remarks that the current administration has undone progress made during his tenure. Now, speaking during the Jubilee Party National Delegates Conference on Friday, Uhuru faulted the Kenya Kwanza government for what he termed untested and untried experiments that were hurting Kenyans. Stephen Zioka with more.
Pro-government legislators have chosen no silence after retired President Uhuru Kenyatta on Friday accused the current regime of running down the country. A brigade led by Mwala MP and the UDA National Organizing Secretary Vincent Kawaya, while in Kitui Township, dismissed the former president's claims, accusing him of leaving behind a limping economy.
We have not told Kenyans you are the problem. Tulikuwa tunajaribu kulipa madeni ambao wewe ulikopa na ingine ulikopa na ukaingiza kwa miradi yako ambayo inatumia pesa ya Kenya kama ile expressway, na kumbe saa hizi hata ile pesa tunalipa expressway kuna pesa inaingia kwako kupitia proxies. Yes.
The MP saying President Ruto is on track for undisputed re-election in 2027, arguing that his administration is investing in bold long-term programs that will yield returns for citizens.
Ati mtu anasema hizo nyumba hazina maana, ni bure sana. Yeye akiwa rais atachukua hiyo pesa arudishie wale ambao watakuwa wametoa na hiyo nyumba aivunje. Sasa nataka kuuliza, mtu akiongea hivyo anaweza kuwa rais kweli?
Sasa ile kitu ambayo ni gain ambayo ilierodiwa ni kukopa pesa ama ni nini? Kwa sababu I'm really struggling to understand which are these gains that have been eroded. Ama ni ile pesa ulikuwa umekopa mingi na ma euro bond ambayo tumengangana naye rais wetu akalipa.
Another team led by Kibwezi West MP Mwengi Mutuse and Joanna Ngeno, speaking during the launch of a 900-unit housing project worth 2.24 billion in Makindu Makueni, the MPs defended the president's track record.
Pesa ya COVID mulikula. Hatukupiga kelele. Pesa ya barabara uliweka region moja. Sasa hivi umekuwa unazunguka huko Ethiopia, unazunguka huko Somalia kutafuta amani, unazunguka South Sudan kutafuta amani. Sasa hivi umekuwa Kongo kutafuta amani. Waache kusumbua nchi.
Hakuna mradi umefanyika katika hii sehemu katika miaka 15 miaka 20 iliyopita ambao uko na kiwango cha fedha kama vile rais leo amekitunuku hapa Makindu.
The MPs seem to be laying ground for a looming President Ruto's Ukambani tour, where several mega projects have been witnessed within Ukambani region. Stephen Zioka, KTN.
Oh, wait, there's more. Even Oscar Sudi has something else, something to say. Can we? We have to listen to this. Oscar Sudi. We have to listen to Oscar Sudi. I'm sorry. We have to listen to Oscar Sudi. That's the highlight right there. Let's listen to Oscar Sudi. Oscar Sudi.
Former President Uhuru Kenyatta's criticism of President William Ruto's administration, suggesting the former president should focus on his own shortcomings rather than commenting on the current administration's performance. Now, this comes after Uhuru Kenyatta stated that President Ruto's administration has failed.
Niliona ule mtu wetu ule former president. Ule mtu alikuwa amemaliza inchi. Tulipata inchi ikiwa kwa maututi. Nilikuwa nasikia anaongea maneno ya security, anaongea sijui maneno ya nini, anaongea sijui maneno ya mastima. Mimi nataka niambie former president, tafadhali. Mtu akienda retire anakuanga mtu muungwana sana, anakuwa mzee. Mtu wa kuonesha watu barabara, mtu wa kuenda engagement ya watoto, mtu wa kuenda maharusi ya mandugu zake na madada zake. Hakuna kitu ulisahau. Sisi ndio tulikusupport na tukakupatia uongozi ya miaka 10 na tukasimama na wewe, lakini tu term yako ilikuwa mbaya, na sijui mwenye ulikuwa unaongelea hawa watu walikuwa sijui hawakuwa najua wewe ndio ulikuwa rais ama wanafikiria. Mimi nataka nikwambie Uhuru Kenyatta, wewe relax, wacha uongozi, waachia huyu ndugu yako aongoze. Ile kitu ninajua inakusumbua kichwa sana, ni kama ndoto. Ukiona ile vitu ile Ruto anafanya, ni ile vitu ilikuwa kwa manifesto yenu zamani, ile mlikuwa mmeanza nayo 2030. Lakini wewe ulikuwa muoga, uliogopa maneno ya housing, uliogopa hii maneno yote, kubadilisha maneno ya masomo nini. Sasa hii inakusumbua kichwa, unaona mwingine anafanya. So nilikuwa nataka niambie wewe Uhuru, wewe relax, tutaki tena tulimana na wewe, tulikulima hatu kushinda kura na ukaenda nyumbani kwa mzee. Hauwezi pata uongozi mwingine tena.
Welcome to Kenya, where politics never end. As the world marks World Rabies Day.
I mean, hold on. As funny as Oscar Sudi may sound, I mean, he makes a valid point as far as he's saying. I mean, the same thing I was saying. Are we forgetting that? Are we forgetting that? Is Uhuru Kenyatta forgetting that he was part of this, nonsense that he's accusing Ruto of? I mean, at this point, that's what I'm saying. I'm not even calling it hypocrisy at this stage. This is an affront to the Kenyan people. Contempt. Okay, you're insulting our intelligence as if we have the memory of an ant. We know what you did, and I don't have to rehash it. There's no difference between Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto. In fact, listen. Anyway, if you want to look at this politically, for those of you who are getting excited about Gachagua, Ruto, Raila, and all this and that, I listened to the whole 30-minute speech by Uhuru Kenyatta. It's okay. He threw some indirect shots at Raila Odinga, saying, okay, as Jubilee, we are still part of the Azimio. I'm the head of the Azimio. We are still where we are. Mimi si mtu wa kupiga corner, reverse, and all that stuff, saying basically that, hey, listen, I'm still in Azimio. I never left Azimio. I haven't been involved in any kind of arrangement with the party, the ruling party, or whatever the case is, UDA, Ruto's party. Basically, it's saying, Raila, it's a shot at Raila. Then, of course, it was, he, had scathing remarks or criticism against the regime of the day, which is Ruto's administration, calling, tuliletewa stories of hustler and single mothers and all this stuff. Yes, we get it. Now, for those of you who want to look at it in the political sense, like in the ground, if you're still invested in this script, this mchezo wa town between these political so-called characters. I call them characters. These are not leaders. These are not even tribal chieftains. These are characters, criminals. Okay, for those of you who are invested in it, you might interpret it as, okay, Uhuru Kenyatta is asserting himself as the Mudhamaki, the king of Mount Kenya, basically to pacify, Gachagua's influence, because Gachagua is betting on Matiang'i to bring him some votes from Kisii, and Gachagua is going to bring on the Mount Kenya votes, then bring on whoever, the Kamba vote through Kalonzo Musyoka. Martha Karua will bring her 2 votes. Then who else? I don't know. Wamalwa might, they might through Wamalwa and that kid. What's this crazy guy that was fighting Francis Nani Kibet? Malaba. See, Malala. They'll have a chunk of the Western province, together with Wamalwa, who basically works for Uhuru Kenyatta. I mean, if you look at listen to me, I've always said this. The so-called united opposition is basically a Uhuru Kenyatta project. Okay? Number one, look at Matiang'i. Matiang'i, of course, is Jubilee. Matiang'i is Uhuru Kenyatta's lapdog. Kalonzo, with a few millions, Kalonzo will be quick to be, to give Uhuru Kenyatta fellatio, okay? Martha Karua, she has to stay relevant, okay? She sold out her soul long time ago. The only thing she wants to, the only way she can stay relevant is to keep on working for George Soros, trying to pretend that she's doing a noble cause by fighting for, I don't know, Bobby Wine, whoever is locked up in Uganda and Tindulusu, okay? So she'll be more than happy if she's been considered as the opposition, throwing her weight, her 2 votes into the mix. Okay? Then bring on Jimmy Wanjigi to add in some more money over here as part of the United, I don't know what. All right? Then, of course, Eugene Wamalwa, the busybody who is bored, has nothing to do with anything. Okay? Another irrelevant face who wants to make a name for himself in Kenyan politics. Okay? Who will bring your 5 votes. Okay? Then gets in the Natembeas. Okay, who feel like they have a future in politics, especially in Western Kenya. I think is he a governor or whatever the case is? Yeah, he is. And he was accused of, the Auditor General found that some money was missing in his county, Trans Nzoia County, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so he wouldn't mind trying to be a face of, I don't know, Western Kenya. Okay, then Malala, who doesn't know what he's doing with his life, who is happy-go-lucky. He's riding around with Gachagua, talking all this nonsense, calling him king and all this nonsense, okay? So these are people who really don't have anything. They don't have goals. They don't have anything going on in their lives. They're happy to just be having cameras in their face, and they look like people who want to be something in life, but they're not really about anything. They're a bunch of empty suits. Busy bodies who want to make themselves kind of like a way of being a celebrity, kind of. They can walk around, gather people, talk about one term, and people clap. And they feel good about themselves when they go home, knowing that there are people who clap for them. And they'll be there, be like, yeah, unaona, I injected, nilimwambia, I told Ruto in his face. I told Musalia Mudavadi in his face. Like I said, I told you that video when there was a funeral up there, and Malala had, started talking smack about the speaker, whatever, Wetangula, okay? And he was actually embarrassing himself the way he was talking. And again, Musalia Mudavadi, as much as I do not agree with him on anything, he sounded like a level-headed guy and came up here and said, listen, how can you desecrate this event by acting like a total buffoon, okay? You see what I'm saying? These people, like, especially the ones on the United opposition front, whatever the case they're calling themselves, they're a bunch of people, looters, who have looted a lot of money but want to stay relevant, to be seen in the public arena because they don't have anything going for their lives. So they have to stay, they want to enjoy the celebrity that comes with being a politician. Oh, nitatembea hapa, I'll be called Mheshimiwa, I'll be called the General Secretary of DCP, I'll be called the head of PLP, I'll be called the head of, I don't know why Papati, I don't know what they call it nowadays, okay? I'll be called the head of Safina. They're just bored. Just like, I look at Safina Party and I'm looking at these people, I'm like, Willis Otieno sounds like a smart guy, but he knows but Willis Otieno, I know why he's there. Jimmy Wanjigi has money to burn. This guy thinks he's a president. His press conference have the thingy of Kenya, and he talks as if he's in State House addressing the nation. Because akona pesa mingi, he wants to act like he's a president. And Willis Otieno knows this guy is, he's bored. He has a lot of money to burn. So, hey, why not? I'll be his lawyer and I'll be his deputy running mate or whatever the case is. They're talking about changing the OCPD to sheriff. Good idea, but listen, there's nothing that can move unless you deal with the historical injustice that happened in Kenya, especially the economic injustice crime that has happened in Kenya. That is the number one thing you have to do in order to actually prevent the corruption and looting and all this money stuff that you're talking about. Do you hear me, Willis Otieno Lewis and Safina Party and all you Okiom Tatas? Thank you for showing us that our money was stolen. Thank you for telling us about ODS debt. But you will not recover that money and you will not stop it from getting looted if you're not going to confront the number one ailing thing in Kenya, problem in Kenya, which is the lack of law enforcement. You have to enforce the law that is in place. If the Constitution is breached, disrespected, disregarded, you cannot implement these wonderful things you're talking about ODS debt, OCPD to sheriff, I don't know, free high school and university and all these things, wonderful things you're telling us. You will not achieve none of it if you can't first confront that very primary main problem that is the reason why we have every other problem in Kenya, whether it's tribalism, whether it's lack of economic growth, whether it's this criminal enterprises manipulating people into high crime in Nairobi with the Sakajas hiring goons. It all falls under the lack of rule of law enforcement. Even tribalism, because the Constitution actually addresses how tribalism can be dealt with in a way which cannot affect how we live amongst each other as Kenyans. But if you don't want to implement that very Constitution by first acknowledging the historical injustice and the previous administration perfidies, criminal activities that needs to be brought to account, you will not realize your dream of debt reduction, economic growth, infrastructural development, and all these wonderful things you want to employ. And don't you find it funny that of all of these political parties, whether it's Jubilee, UDA, ODM, Safina, PLP, Wiper, all these people, none of them is addressing it. DCP, all this, none of them is addressing that. And they're all talking about going to 2027 election. They're telling you that the only way to remove Ruto or to bring change that you want is if you go and take an ID and register to vote. Well cognizant of the fact that the electoral process and the constitutional mandated body that will oversee this process of election, which is the IBC, is already compromised. But they are all telling you, enda ka vote. You saw the story of these Somalis, these 14-year-olds that were throwing flags, whatever the case is. And there was also, they're posting pictures every day, not only those young kids, but there are Somalis who are, are Somalis. Nothing against Somalis, Kenyan Somalis. Shout out to you, okay? Shout out to Glade, my friend, okay? But I'm just saying this, they're showing you how easy it is to even get a Kenyan passport or ID for that matter. And these are the people who are going to vote, actually. And I also wanted to touch on this Somali-Kenya fight that is now being, it is being shaped into now, they want to make it a Kikuyu versus Somali fight. This is an NIS psyop by the government. Hii mambo unaona hii flag ati hao vijana wanatupa flag na wanasijua kanakanyaga flag. Don't fall into that. They want to make it a Kikuyu versus Somali fight, because how they are going to justify this in their narrative in support of the looting, not the looting, but the theft, or the electoral theft, or electoral injustice that's going to happen in 2027. They will argue that Ruto replaced the Mount Kenya vote with the Somali vote. And they will argue that the Somalis are just as populated as the Mount Kenya vote, to justify the argument that Ruto did not need Mount Kenya vote to win the election. Even though we know he's going to rig, he has handpicked his own minions at the IBC, but they're all telling you, let's go to 2027. I will not tire to make that point. Unasikia? I will not tire to make that point. Now, that's why I hate, that's why I don't spend a lot of time talking about the intricate details, the happenings, the inner maneuvers, the political gymnastics of Kenya, because it's all fake. It's fake. Fake like a $3 bill. Mtu ambaye alikuwa president for 10 years, who was involved in corruption, his family is corrupt, gained money through corruption, is a colonial stooge, is involved in every kind of scandals and criminal activity, including murder, kuuza madawa, trafficking hizo maninio za mapembe za ninio za elephants, and all sorts of criminal activity that he presided on for the past 10 years. Ati anasimama leo anawaambia ati sijui hii, ati mimi nilifanya kazi nzuri, ati sasa sijui nini imeharibika, sijui jamaa ndiye ameharibu hivi. While the person that is blaming for doing these things was his deputy. Na walikuwa naiba pamoja, walikuwa wanachinja pamoja, walikuwa wanafanya hizi vitu pamoja. Huyo muaji ako hapo Matiang'i amesimama nje korokoro. Ako hapo mbele amekaa front line and center, ati endi anajifanya ati kazi sijui nini. That's why I don't get into the hizo political gymnastics za Kenya. Ni mchezo wa town to excite you for the gullible. Junyi bado mtafurahia hapo mwende. Uhuru alikuwa na choma, he was fingering. Is that what they call it? Inject. Kwa nasikia nani yule kijana alikuwa anasema inject. Siku hizi anauza ninio furniture huko. There's nothing wrong with that. Get your money by all means. Hata kama unauza kiatu, nothing wrong. Get your hustle. But he was pretending that he wants to run for president, is the Gen Z, is the voice of the young people, all this nonsense. You understand? So that's why I'm not invested with this whole. So, unaona sasa utasikia ma political analyst kesho in the media, utawasikia ati Uhuru came out and spoke because Uhuru anaona kwamba DCP is a very strong party, Gachagua is influencing the Mount Kenya, so he's coming back to spoil votes for Gachagua because Gachagua nafinya sana. These choreographed gymnastics, political gymnastics by the political class and when I talk about political class, is all these clowns, is designed to bring confusion, because the end result is to keep Ruto as the president of the Republic of Kenya till 2032. Then they shall put Gachagua in then. Because the biggest political opponent in the opposition in 2027 will be Gachagua after Ruto rigs himself in again. I told you, I keep on, kuna video moja ambayo I keep on telling you, there was one video when Uhuru was the president and he was drunk and he was saying, kumi yangu, kumi ya Ruto, alafu then he started saying then, alafu gacha, then he stopped himself because he was drunk and he was releasing the plan. Because then he stopped himself. Oh, I'm giving the plan. And if you see this thing, it's the same thing. When he finished his 10 years, akajifanya ati amekosana na nani? Amekosana na Ruto, which was fake. Alafu ati Raila akaingia. Then tukaendelea 2023 ikaingia, alafu Raila akafanya mambo yake. Sasa pia tena the president ati amekosana na his assistant. Sasa Raila tena ameingia tena. Sasa very soon they want to tell us that Gachagua will become the darling of Kenyans, just like Ruto became the darling of Kenyans, na hiyo Hustler versus Ninio. Same script. Unakumbuka when Nanio was being removed unconstitutionally? It was designed to give Gachagua's political, social currency. Impatiele oomph. Lakini Gachagua nae, he didn't win majority of Kenyans because he stuck to Mount Kenya. And he knows after 2027, Gachagua will try to position himself as a national leader. Atawacha hii mambo ya Mount Kenya because he knows 2032 yeye ndiye atakuwa anawekwa hapo kwa ninio. Because this is all pre-planned. And the reason to tell you that Ruto is not going anywhere, you saw Ruto with Macron. Macron is very unpopular in France and anywhere else in Africa. But Ruto was proving to be the biggest colonial stooge of the day from Africa. Hii story alikuwa anapiga hapo ati story ya sijui ati Africa needs a permanent seat. What will a permanent seat help any African nation? Hata weke 5 countries to have permanent seat in the UN. How will that help the Africans who are there, don't have enough food because the West are still extracting minerals every day and controlling the inner politics of this African nation? How does that help Africa? Even if you get 10 countries, African nations, to have permanent seats in the United Nations Security Council, how will that help the local African kid in Congo who is being gunned down? Or in Sudan by Junjawid? How will that help? You see how this silliness is? You jinga tunakuja hapo ati Ruto naenda hapo anatuambia ati Africa needs to have a permanent seat. How will that permanent seat help people? Work. How is that permanent seat going to help people to have roads in Kanyamkago or in Machakos? Or in Kiambu? How is that going to have justice for Rex? And there's Gen Zs who are gunned down, having a permanent seat at the UN. Unaona vile hiyo fala iko. That's why the Sahel nations were like, you know what? We don't need the UN. We don't need the World Bank. We don't need the IMF. We don't need none of that. We can do this by ourselves. We have enough resources. And we have enough young, educated people who can actually move this nation up the social economic ladder. We shall cooperate with countries that are willing to have a mutual benefit in this contractual agreement that we have, economically speaking. That's why Russia is willing to help Burkina Faso to develop nuclear energy to lighten up Burkina Faso and provide power for their industries that they're growing. Meanwhile, Ruto is selling all the industry. I had just heard Rivertex imeuzwa. Raila is telling you, uzeni pipeline so we can have money. You see how they're thinking, this colonial backward thinking, that it's uzeni pipeline. If United Arab Emirates buys Kenya, they can tell all you indigenous people, tokeni Kenya. It's either you pay rent or mtafukuzwa Kenya mutoke, because now that land doesn't belong to you anymore. But Coleman from Opoda is coming and telling you it's okay to sell these national assets to these organizations, private organizations from other countries. Failing to understand is that the very industries that we have is what will strengthen the economy of the nation. If you have a Rivertex industry that has been revitalized and is working proper and is making profits, A, it employs the youth in the area. B, that money can use to build roads, infrastructure, and all that stuff. C, we have we can collect more revenue from that. Okay? C, D, crime itaenda chini kwa sababu vijana wanafanya kazi, they have something to do. Hawatakuwa na time ya kwenda kwa Jubilee National Delegates Parties conference, listening to Uhuru telling nothing, or they'll be standing up there Ruto akiwaambia tenga hii na tenga ile. They won't be standing listening to Raila Odinga give these silly speeches. They will be working. They will be able to buy, purchasing power. They can build a house for themselves. They can pay school fees if school fee is there. That is the thing of the benefit of having your own industries. That's why you see the first thing the Burkina Faso President Ibrahim Traore did was they do what? Revitalize the industries. Increase production in food so we don't have to wait for USAID to give us zile GMO mahindi ya kutoka huko sijui wapi wanapatiana ng'ombe huko. Ati wanatumia watoto wa Afrika huko wakule. Grow your own food. Build your own industries. Employ your own people. Within 3 years, Burkina Faso is producing their own car, electrical car. There's a massive program, infrastructural program ya kujenga mabarabara in Burkina Faso. Biggest since Eisenhower came up with the whatever mission after World War II. By Ibrahim Traore anajenga magari. Na sasa ameshikana na Urusi. Urusi nampatia ile technology ya nuclear power. So he can power. Kukuwa na kukuwa na taa. Electricity everywhere. Hata huko ndani huko. Wakuwa in electricity. Farmers need it. Industries need it. Okay? Ndio wapate maendeleo. You don't sell those things like Raila is telling you to sell it. Patia Adani wachukue pipeline uza. What is wrong with people? Speaking of which, CBDCs, Central Bank Digital Currency, is here upon us. Listen to Raila Odinga. I told you about this the other day. Na naambia digital ID pia inakuja. Na itakuja very quickly. Before you remember he talking about Raila alikuwa anaileta? Ndio hiyo. Follow me because we should enjoy. Thank you, Mabri. Nice seeing you, my brother. Haya. Wacha niwalete kwa and this is why I'm prophesying to you that digital IDs inakuja. By the way, digital IDs, sinulisikia the Prime Minister of England amesema it is mandatory, compulsory. So if you're in the UK, where's my friend from the UK? Usually up here. Ningemuuliza swali leo, but hayuko so. Haya, ndio Raila sasa alikuwa anawaambia about digital currency ya Kenya. Haya.
As the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, I'm proud to announce that we will soon launch a new digital coin, an ambitious step towards strengthening financial systems and supporting sustainable economic growth across Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. This initiative will empower young people by creating opportunities to learn, trade, and invest in cryptocurrency. It will also boost innovation, entrepreneurship, and wealth creation in the growing digital economy. Kenya is ready to lead Africa and the world into the future of finance. Thank you.
Okay, let me hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Ngojeni kidogo. Ngojeni. You remember when we were laughing? Vile Raila alitoa hiyo nini, tukasema huyu jamaa kwani alikuwa is that AI ama nini mbaya na Raila? Mbona anasema mambo ya digital currency? Huh? Yeah? Central bank digital currency. Listen. Hold on. Listen to me very carefully. Sinimlisikia UK, the Prime Minister of UK alisema ati it will be compulsory in Britain in order to maintain employment, you have to have digital currency. Sorry, not digital currency, digital ID. This is all connected. I know if you know the difference, there's a difference between digital identification and CBD, but it will all come together. It will be one thing very soon. In fact, if you listen to Trump's speech, he was basically telling the world that hey, in the future, we are going to have an AI system that will actually help us with our identification. AI will help with the identification. He's basically talking about digital ID. Okay, he just didn't want to tell you, and I'll play that clip in a minute. But the reason why I'm telling you this thing is coming to Kenya, and within the next month or even next week, don't be surprised if Ruto comes back and gives a speech about digital ID or CBDCs. Listen to me. Oh my God, it's coming together. Listen to me very carefully. Do you know the reason why Starmer, the Prime Minister of of Britain, of UK, was saying that we need digital ID? His justification for that. It was because his reasoning was this. Listen to this. His justification is because we have an immigration problem. We have a what? Immigration problem. Kuna watu ambao wako hapo, wao ma immigrants wanasumbua watu, wana cause crime, wanafanya vitu, okay? So in order to help us identify these immigrants who might be here illegally and committing all this crime, we need digital IDs. Guess what's happening in Kenya right now, which is basically a colony of UK. Sinu mnasikia hiyo story ya Somali. Oh, the Somalis are sijui nini, Somalia are doing this, Somalia wanafanya nini, Isli sijui nini. Did you get my point? You see the connection? Do you see the connection? Hold up, listen. I'll repeat it one more time so you can get it. I'm the dot connector. I'm helping you. This is prophecy. And listen, if there's anything that the globalists want to implement in the world, one of the countries in the world, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, that usually is used as the guinea pig or the test ground for it's usually Kenya. That's why they have their stooge Ruto in power. And that's why Ruto is not going to lose the election in 2027. Connect the dots. Hello? As Martha Karua says. Hello? Listen, UK Prime Minister was trying to justify the implementation of digital ID by using the immigration problem in UK saying that there are a bunch of immigrants that are in England and somewhere within the UK regions, okay, that are running around committing all these kind of atrocities, you know, doing all sorts of stuff. So in order for us to identify them efficiently, we have to make this digital ID thing compulsory, mandatory. That way, if they have that digital ID, we can tell if they have their immigration status. We can tell if you are employed or not. We can tell what kind of your medical status as far as if you have the shot or not. We can tell what is in your bank account through these CBDCs. I'll connect the dots. But they're using immigration as a way to try to mandate this digital ID use. Guess what is being manufactured? The problem that is being manufactured by the NIS in Kenya is the immigration problem. So unaona Al-Shabaab inasumbua KDF huko Northeastern. So unasikia Junjawid sijui alienda kufanya tizi wameingia huko sijui Northeastern. You see this whole Somali argument. Unaona Wakenya wanakasirika ati there's a lot of Somali. Unaona wanatengeneza TikTok hapa ati sijui wanachoma ninio ya Kenya, flag ya Kenya, and they're doing all sorts of stuff. And we are told we cannot identify these people. It's an immigration. We have an immigration problem. Kenyans are too. Monkey see, monkey do. And given the fact that Kenya is one of the first countries that they usually use as a test ground by the globalist to implement such like stuff, guess what? They shall bring this digital ID in Kenya very soon. I will be surprised if October ikipita kabla wajaleta digital ID. Kwa CBD, kwa sababu CBDC is central bank digital currency or digital currency for that matter. Ndio hiyo Raila alituambia. So nimeona video. Raila ametuambia ati inakuja. And he said, as a former president, I'm telling you the importance of having digital currency. Digital currency imeletwa already, inakuja. Raila ametuambia inakam. And this will come hand in hand with what? Digital ID. I'll play you that one more time so I'll scare what Raila was saying. Because remember, everyone was asking themselves that day when Raila made that point in that video. Walikuwa najiuliza, kwani Raila ameingia mambo ya crypto? I mean, what is it? Is he trying to market some crypto, Bitcoin or something? It's not about Bitcoin. This is crypto. Sorry, it's digital currency, whatever the case is, okay? And everyone was wondering, why is Raila talking about this digital currency? Mbona anazungumzia hii mambo? Like, who is he? Like, what? It's coming. And like I told you, Kenya is one of the countries in the world that's always the testing ground for all this globalist agenda. Mbona mnasleki? Hold on for a minute. We're still a private company owned by Great Britain. The Kenyatta family is the governor. They're governing this private entity. And Ruto is the prefect. Let's go to it. Hold on, kidogo. I know you maybe mko slow. Okay, let me not call you slow, but wacha niwacheze hiyo. Where is Tama? Let me tell you this. Wacha nionyeshe hiyo speech ya Tama. Did I save it somewhere? No, I didn't. Did I save it? Let me see. I want to show you that. I hope. I hope you're connecting the dots. I hope you're connecting the dots and see what's happening. Hold on. Raila one more time. One more time. So you hear what Raila is basically talking about the digital currency that is coming. And we are wondering, why is Raila talking about this? Why all of a sudden? This is the agenda. And this thing is already advanced in China. I'll play all this so you can prepare. Na utaona wakina Hanifa na Boniface Mwangi, they will be marketing these things. Kina Martha Karua, they'll be marketing, oh, this is good, it's good for us. Ngojeni. Tulia. Hold on. Wait a minute. Mnasikia? Ngojeni kidogo tu. Hold on. I want you to listen. It's a very short speech by Ninius, less than a minute. Very brief. Listen to what Raila Odinga is saying. One more time. I'm sorry. I know maybe you may scare, but for those of you who are still joining or watching it, just listen to what Raila Odinga is saying here, okay? This digital talk. Listen carefully.
As the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya.
One more time.
I'm proud. As the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, I'm proud to announce that we will soon launch a new digital coin, an ambitious step towards strengthening financial systems and supporting sustainable economic growth across Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. This initiative will empower young people by creating opportunities to learn, trade, and invest in cryptocurrency. It will also boost innovation, entrepreneurship, and wealth creation in the growing digital economy. Kenya is ready to lead Africa and the world into the future of finance. Thank you.
Okay. So he's basically trying to rope in this idea that digital currency will help the young people bring development, economic stability, and all this nonsense. Currency in itself does not necessarily bring economic growth. Okay, there's some things you have to do to actually. It needs human agency to actually bring economic growth. You just don't need the currency by itself, whether it's digital or hard cash or gold or whatever the case is. Okay, you need human agency to actually bring economic growth. So his argument is null and void. But of course, this is designed for the gullible, because he knows majority of Kenyans, a good number of them, do not know what he's talking about. So when he mentioned this message is geared to them. See, these people know that they're lying, and they know that what they're saying is a bunch of nonsense. But they're not worried that you know that they're lying, because they know kuna wale watu ambao wamechanuka, but the majority ambao hawajachanuka, that is who the message is designed for. That's why you can see them talk this nonsense, and people clap. Okay? So here it is. Hold on. Let's listen to the whole digital ID thing. I know you might think I'm conflating the two, but it's very much related. And I tell you, I kid you not, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, few days from now, Ruto will come in and talk to you about digital ID. And he will have all the influencers in the world try to convince you, but you know what? We have immigration problem with the Somalis and all these people who are doing all. Let's have this digital ID. Somali wanakujanga isli hapa wanafanya vitu vao wanatukanyagia flag and all that stuff. We can be able to identify them. That's the argument they're going to use. But listen to me. And like I told you, again, I'm repeating to you, Kenya is one of the few countries that the globalists use to do their test. Okay? If they want to implement something, whether it's the chips, ambao wanaingiza kwa watu, which will be part of that digital identification, or this crypto, this digital token, which is basically going to be CBDC, central bank digital currency. We are trying to move away from the cash transaction. The whole point is to move into a cashless society. Their main aim They want a system where everything is integrated and it's all in one data storage. Okay, so if you have your digital identification, in this digital identification, it will have your healthcare information there. It will have your immigration status, your immigration. It will have your employment status, your age, how many, whatever, everything. Your buying habits, what you buy is going to be recorded there because it's all connected. It's in place, working operational in China as we speak. This is not a dream that is going to happen 10 years from now. This is real and operational in China. China, if your digital ID, kuna vitu ambao hujafanya, like for example, hujapata hizo mashots, they cannot allow you to even go to the kuweka mafuta kwa gari yako. They cannot allow you to even buy food from the grocery mpaka upate hiyo and I'll show you a clip. But let me play you what Starmer, why people are reacting to what Starmer is saying. And that's why the UK, people of UK are actually up in arms in this. In Kenya, they'll pass this very quickly. Unless people, vijana wasimame. Hold on. Yes. Yes, Golden Bazaars. This is on the way. Yes. Actually, it's so funny you say that because the president of El Salvador said the same thing. Okay, so here is a reaction by the people of UK after the MP, the Nenio say that. All right, here it is.
I don't see how that would work.
Well, the thing about it is, Mike, is that Tony Blair has been talking about digital ID for a long time.
Yeah.
Talks about it with vaccine passports, talks about it with national ID cards. In fact, every issue, the solution seems to be digital ID. But what it's going to mean, can you imagine the people who are coming over in boats who are throwing their passports in the sea?
Right.
The idea that digital ID is going to be the solution is just preposterous. What it's going to mean is going to be people are going to be tracked, surveyed, censored, shut down. The ordinary British public, the people who are saying we don't want people in asylum hotels, the people who are asking questions about borders, people asking questions about free speech, people like J.D. Vance who are saying, is there really free speech in Britain anymore with a two-tier Britain, a two-tier judiciary? The idea that digital ID is going to be the solution to our issues on fraud, on crime, just is like one of those great insulting moments for the British public that just means that we're going to be further censored, we're going to be further controlled, but actually the big problems are not going to get dealt with. It's another one of those issues that means that we're going to be have impositions put on us, but the actual issues are not going to get dealt with or resolved.
Yeah, well, I don't understand how you give digital ID to somebody who hasn't got any ID. I mean, how do you even work out who they are?
Well, exactly. I mean, people are throwing away their passports, and then what we're told is that we're going to get this digital ID system. But what it means is we've seen this already, Mike, haven't we? With debanking, we've seen it with things like the Counter Disinformation Unit, the Rapid Response Unit, ordinary citizens, journalists, doctors, all being tracked and surveyed and shadow banned. But the actual problems, the actual real issues that the British public are very concerned about never get dealt with. So it's a double whammy and it's very insulting, and we have to say no to digital ID.
Yeah. And what stage is it at the moment, Alan? I mean, because presumably they'll try and rush it through. They'll try and do it stealthily. They'll try and somehow hoodwink everybody, and suddenly you'll wake up one morning and there it will be. But what stage is it actually at?
Well, I don't know. They're talking about things like GPS tracking on trains. They're talking about, oh, here's the big solution. We're going to have digital ID for every aspect of your lives. I'm really not sure, Mike. It's like one of those things that they say that we've got this like kind of silver bullet to resolve all our problems. Here we're going to do this thing and it's going to like suddenly resolve it. 110,000 illegal migrants since Keir Starmer has come in, 50,000 in the last year. And it's not just illegal migrants, of course. We know that there's a whole range of issues. Like with criminals, we know that people, rape gangs and others have just gone with impunity, right? We've got a whole situation where there's been a kind of culture where you can't address things because people say, well, within the context of DEI and how we have to address things, you can't really tackle real issues. But yeah.
All right, so that's basically a snippet of how, you know, how the British people are uneasy about this idea of digital ID. They know this thing is it's a sham. It's a way of control, like Mabri is telling us in the comment section. I agree with it wholeheartedly. It's about, the globalists having control over everyone on Earth.
Has your photograph. It can identify how you walk. So even if so in China, for example, God, this is going to happen here, I think, too. Although maybe people will fight it. If a traffic camera catches you jaywalking in China, the digital ID system has your blood now, has your genetic code, has your photograph. It can identify how you walk. So even if you can't see a face, you can be picked up by gate. It will convict you of jaywalking and take money out of your bank account with no intermediating judiciary at all, and show a picture of you to the people in the neighborhood so they know that you have jaywalked, and reduce your social credit score. And if your social credit score falls below a certain level, you can't buy drinks from a vending machine. You can't play video games. You can't go on a train. You can't get out of your 15-minute city.
All right, so you see, that's Peterson, Professor Peterson from Canada, who's basically just explaining quickly about the digital currency, how this thing is going to be used and control people. The president of El Salvador, okay, Bukele, I think that's his name, as Mr. What's this guy who actually made a very good point here in the comment section, who told us Golden Bazaars said they are copying UK. This is on the way to 666. Absolutely. And here it is. That's exactly what Bukele actually said. One of my favorite presidents. I told you this guy, when he took over El Salvador was rated number one murderous country in the world. The murder rate was high. There was this. It was basically a narco state. Okay, the cartels, drug cartels, were really ruling the country. He came in there, and like he explained, the problem was a spiritual problem. That's where the that's the roots of the problem. It was a spiritual problem, and once he took care of the spiritual problem, everything fell in place. And now El Salvador is one of the safest countries in the world after he took over. Here he speaking about the whole digital currency thing. This is something that is going to be blurred. And I'm telling you, the reason why I connected with the CBDCs is because, again, for the umpteenth time, Kenya is usually the testing ground for the globalist agenda, because Kenya, historically, from Jomo to William Samoei Ruto, we've always laid down flat to let the West do whatever they want to do in Kenya. We actually mimic them in everything. Policy, how we want to govern ourselves, their style of music, what they eat. They even influence the food products as GMOs. We are accepting it. Everything is just passing. Okay? Hizo mashindano, it's coming. We just take them because we mimic them. And that's why I'm telling you, this will not be, it won't be long before we start seeing the digital ID being introduced in Kenya. Actually, how does that, is it Huduma number? I don't know about Huduma number. Huduma number, I'll get to that. But anyway, here it is. Let me play that, what Bukele said about the digital ID, which is coming to Kenya. I told you, the digital currency, we are being prepared for the digital currency by Raila Odinga, who announced that. Now it makes sense. It's coming together. You see that. Because I told you, these people are colonial stooges. They work for the West. Okay, that's why you see them on TV every day. They are not working for the people of Kenya. Here it is, Daninio. They play the Bukele guy who was actually talking about this. All right, here is the El Salvador president who was actually addressing that.
De que El Salvador nunca. Quiero hablarles a ustedes, niños y adolescentes, a la generación que tendrá la enorme responsabilidad de que El Salvador siga avanzando y que nunca más vuelva atrás. Ustedes son los responsables de que El Salvador nunca más vuelva al pasado. Les toca aprender, crecer y aprovechar las oportunidades que tienen. Computadoras, seguridad para estudiar, espacios para soñar en grande, espacios que aún estamos recuperando con la reconstrucción de escuelas, pero que hemos ido avanzando. También les toca hacer su parte, respetar, esforzarse, valorar a sus maestros, honrar a sus padres y sentirse orgullosos de este país que es de ustedes. Porque son ustedes los que van a llevar a El Salvador mucho más lejos de lo que nosotros podamos lograr. Hoy, ustedes son los protagonistas de este día, de esta celebración y de este nuevo El Salvador. En sus pasos firmes, en sus uniformes impecables, está la prueba con sus voces cantando el himno con orgullo de que somos un país distinto.
All right. There you go. So the worry with the digital currency is the registration. They scan your eyes to verify your account. That means they can create a clone of you. Now, they might even pull this off and say, hey, in order for you to... Actually, there's several ways that they can trick the Kenyan public. They'll start by saying, oh, in order to vote in 2027, you have to register with this. We are going to use digital means of actually voting. You know, you're moving up. You know, they'll kind of dress it up like that's the end thing. We are moving on. We are technologically advanced. Let's, you know, register. You have to have this digital ID. There's no way through digital ID, there's no way the votes can be manipulated. Let's get registered to this. And, you know, since everybody will be all enthusiastic and excited about this idea of removing Ruto and all this political class will be like, yeah, let's register with this digital ID. Then, but ndio hiyo wamekurop in on washa kupata. Now, another interesting one, the WEF guy, that evil man, I forgot his name. Let's see. Hold on. Wait a minute. Let me find him. He talked about this implanted microchips back in 2016. Let's listen in a little bit long. Not a little bit. It's not long. It's just a few things that I want to play right here. I forgot his name. Staus.
Qu'on pourra s'implanter, ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans notre peau. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
On appelle quelqu'un, on n'a même plus le réflexe de devoir prendre un appareil, ça se fait naturellement. Hein. La technique continue le corps.
Oui, vous parlez, vous dites, je veux maintenant être connecté avec n'importe qui.
Et d'abord, au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans notre peau. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
On appelle quelqu'un, on n'a même plus le réflexe de devoir prendre un appareil, ça se fait naturellement. Hein. La technique continue le corps.
Oui, vous parlez, vous dites, je veux maintenant être connecté avec n'importe qui. Et d'abord, au bout.
All right. So basically that's telling you there'll be a chip put in your, microchip put in your brain that will affect your actions and all that stuff. The book of Revelation is being fulfilled. Have you heard of Neuralink by the, what's his name? The Tesla guy? We're there. Tushafika hapo. Nyinyi mnafikiri hii ni mchezo? We are already there, my friends. Tushafika hapo. And you'll see how it will be introduced by Ruto in the next few weeks. Naambia, Raila ndio huyo alishaambia mambo ya ninio. Alishawapatia just a few glimpses. You know, people didn't pay attention because we didn't know what he was talking about. But tushafika hapo. Yeah? And I'll give you an example. Wacha nionyeshe kidogo vile China iko, vile mambo China iko. Kama una hiyo kadi utaona vile mambo iko. Hold on, let me see if I can find right here. I think I have a all right. Here it is. Here is China. How China operates. Mujue vile mambo iko. Just a glimpse of what I'm talking about. All right, this is China. Somebody posted it. To give you context, I mean, you're seeing a bunch of people in the snow. The context here is that these people update their information in their digital ID. Let's say they haven't taken shots, updated their shots, you know, so they have to go to these centers. Because if you don't update your shot, you cannot buy from the supermarket, you cannot buy anything from the pharmacy, you cannot fuel your car, you cannot get any kind of your transportation for ya serikali. You cannot have all of that until you update your information. So these are people who are updated the information up to date with their the data, what needs to be done in their digital stuff, so on a lineup to get their stuff for Ninio ready. Ndio maana unaona vile mambo iko. But anyway, I hope you get the gist, the idea of what I'm talking about and where we're heading to. The problem, like I said, Kenya tumependa siasa tumependa sana, but we fail to look at the big picture. You're so overwhelmed and barraged, but there's a barrage of information on the twists and turns and the political gymnastics, mchezo wa town ambayo inaendelea in about our politics. Mara sijui Uhuru Kenyatta watashikana na Raila, wasimame against Ruto, mara DCP itashikana na sijui nani, washinde sijui huyu. Just a bunch of things that really don't matter. But like I usually say, it is until mpaka watu wasimame. This is what we have to activate. Activate their sovereign will, where they want to head to. Tukizidi kuentertain hawa kina Uhuru Kenyatta, DCP, sijui akina Gachagua, sijui Raila Odinga, sijui Ruto, sijui Martha Karua, Eugene Wamalwa, Matiangi, Kalonzo, Natembea, sijui. We shall find ourselves in a world that we do not have consent of what is done to us. because these people have totally sold you out. I was listening to Kalonzo on JKL, and I'm like, what is he talking about? What is he saying? What is he saying? You see what I'm saying? And they're all like that. It's not only limited to Kalonzo Musyoka. And it's the same faces, because these faces, like I usually tell you, hawa wakina Kalonzo, Martha Karua, Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, William Samoei Ruto, Gachagua, Cleophas Malala, Wetangula, you know, all these people, they are the most trusted people by the globalist to carry out the agenda. Wanapewa billions so that can push the agenda on the people. Wanaenda huko ushago, naambia ushago, in order mkitaka development hapa, hii digital ID mnahitaji kuwa nayo. Unakumbuka vile walikuwa natuletea GMO? What was nani telling us? So that's how they dress it up like it's something good. Vile tu naona Raila in that video was telling us. This digital currency is good for Kenyans. Italeta maendeleo. Will be fast in Africa. Yeah? Na tutaieneza Afrika yote. And it will bring a lot of vijana from poverty. Just because it's a digital currency? I mean, what kind of reason is that? But that's how they're dressing it up. Itatuletea maendeleo. A lot of our youth shall find employment. Utaendelea, watakuwa na sijui nini, you know? And you get excited because you don't know what he's talking about. Wewe unasema tu Raila akisema hiyo etosha. And they're using Raila because Raila, they're still thinking that Raila has influence over a lot of people in Kenya than anybody else. In fact, it makes sense. Kwa sababu Ruto, if they use Ruto to announce that digital currency token that he was talking about, Ruto already has a reputation as mtu wa kutenga, mtu wa kudanganya watu, kasongo. So no one would believe him. Kenyatta cannot come, Uhuru cannot say, oh, sijui digital token, nini. Because he doesn't have influence like that. Kenyatta too is just a figure, popular, a known figure, but he doesn't have influence over anyone. Nobody really cares about him anymore. Watu watasema au jamaa tu hilo, he's telling us something about to help his family. But Raila is someone who, through hizo ninio zake, uconmanship na kuninio, when he says it, tusema, hey, nyewe, baba unajua alituambia about golden bucks. Sijui baba ndiye alituambia about ninio, whatever, Eurobond. Sijui baba ndiye, okay, this thing must be good because baba akisema anaonanga mbali. Unasikia watu wakisema, baba anaweza kuona vitu ambao ukisimama wewe uone na yana aiona kama amekaa chini. So they are using Raila Odinga to push this digital currency thing, which the next one will be the digital ID. Wanaiweka mandatory in UK. So watu wa UK wanaipiga. But Kenya always does everything that UK does because Kenya is a private company owned by the UK. Kenya was a colony of the UK. Kenya is a British East African company owned by the British Crown. So whatever happens in Britain is going to happen in Kenya. And it's going to be brought in a very, very deceiving way. Vile tu Raila alatuambia about this digital currency. And it will be ninio. Because they want the whole universe to accept it. And like I say, Kenya is always the first countries to jump in. Hata siku za shutdown, unakumbuka? Within Africa, Kenya was number one to go on shutdown. Tanzania sinilikataa. Ndio maana waliua Magufuli. Museveni alifuatilia because Museveni depends on US for him to breathe. But Kenya was among the first countries in Kenya, in Africa. Whatever Britain says happens in Kenya. Ndio maana unaona the British High Commissioner always visits Kasongo and Uhuru Kenyatta in their personal residence. And Raila Odinga. Because these people are the people who have influence in Kenya. So if they want to bring something in Kenya, these are the people who they'll use. Watatumia Raila Odinga, watatumia Ruto, watatumia Uhuru, watatumia Martha Karua, watatumia Boniface Mwangi, through George Soros na mambo ingine wakina Hanifa. Yes! That's how they use us. Na mta accept. Mtaambiwa, In order kupiga kura mpaka kuwa na digital ID. Tumepanda bei. In order to vote, you have to have digital identification. Si unataka kutoa ninio kasongo? Mpaka mkuwe na digital ID. Na itapasiwa. They'll pass it in the ninio. Kwa ninio. The parliament is a ninio. Rubber stamp ya president. Wakina Sifuna wataenda hapo wakiongea upuzi. Yeah, we need to move in the 21st century sijui nini so that we can be first among in Africa blah 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 blah. Na kina Kalwale. Kizungu mingi. And Herman Manyora atakuja hapo. You know, this thing I'm telling you, we need this thing. We need this thing. If Raila says we need this thing, we need this thing. I'm telling you today. Wataenda huko Citizen TV na Okwara amekaa hapo ama Gatundu JKL. You know in order watu wamefurahia. Haya. Ni hivyo. Haya. Kenya is a war zone. Something interesting, been typing something about Schwab, but that comment haiendi. Hadi nime screenshot, but zengine zinakam. Interesting. Type it. Hebu na ingoja hapo. I haven't seen it. Unajua watu fanya shadow banning. Unajua hata hii dinio, wale watu ambao wanafanyia serikali ya Kenya, wanaendanga ile channel lingine hapo, they are working hard to stop this one. Lakini sisi tunaendelea. Like, unajua wengine listen. You know, there are some people who are doing things because they wanataka jina. They want to feel important. They want fame. They're not doing this because they believe it. They are doing it as entertainment. Wanaona hii itani. Anyway, this man Charles Schwab should be investigated. He's a danger to humanity and the human. Of course, yes. I think he was part of the new German army, Nazi, or whatever the case is. Schwab is a very, very weird person. Ni kashetani sana huyo jamaa. Na hata mtoto wake. So yes, I agree. Ndio maana while we are entertaining hizi stories as sijui Gachagua sijui hizo ni distraction ndugu yangu. Hizo ni distraction. Distraction kabisa. In fact, there was another one I forgot to. Let me see if I can get that tweet. There was another tweet here which about the things that they want to bring in Kenya. It was a very interesting tweet. The things ambao wanataka kuleta nini? Kuleta Kenya. And there are red flags. Red flags all over. Very, very weird things. I can't get it. Poleni. I wish I saved that tweet. But it's basically, let me just highlight this tweet. Let me just highlight this tweet really quick. Because this is one of the response about what they want to bring in Kenya. Hold on very quickly. So I don't know if you can see the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Mnaona? So Eric Mukunza was actually basically replying to this. Kuna injection wanataka kuleta Kenya. Let me remove your comment kidogo Nani Mabri. Hold on. Kuna injection wanataka kuleta Kenya, okay? Listen up. Injection wanataka kuleta ni prevention injection. It's been sponsored by Bill Gates Foundation. It's going to be low-cost alternative and low-income population. I think it's about cancer or some sort. Only a fool will trust a man that says he wants to depopulate the earth. So wanataka kuleta injection ambayo anasema ati italoa cancer. And it's by Bill Gates. And they're saying it's going to be low-cost alternative. And it's for low-income population. Kitu yote ya kutoka kwa Bill Gates ndugu yangu. Ukisikia Bill Gates anaweza kupatia kitu, kimbia. Na hao ndio ambao naona wakina Boniface Mwangi wanafurahia. Kama uliona nani Hanifa alikuwa anajaribu kuchukua pesa ya watu, atanajifanya ati sijui nani. Lakini Kenya, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, I've been here for too long. Mabri, thank you so much. I know you had so much. Hata ungeingia mapema, lakini this is all I wanted to say. Like I said, Kenyans, are you ready for a digital ID and CBDCs, which is central bank digital currencies? They are going to introduce that. And now it makes sense. They are slowly they're trying to do it in a slick way, introduce it to Kenya. They are using your influencers, your popular politicians like Raila Odinga. We were wondering last week, why is Raila Odinga of all the people talking about something that we know Raila it does not have any kind of information about? Raila never talks about digital currency. This guy, he'll talk to you about Kasipul elections and how he can continue extorting the governors of ODM and Broadbase and all this nonsensical stuff. But all of a sudden, this guy, of all things he could talk about, he came out and talked about digital token that will be coming to Kenya. And he's telling us all the good things about it. It falls under the CBDCs, central bank digital currency. And by the way, do you know central bank is actually independent? I don't even think the Kenyan legislative body has the power to actually audit the CBD, the Kenyan Commercial Bank. Sorry, the Central Bank of Kenya. Actually, there's an article about it. Ngojeni kidogo. Before I knew, there's something. Oh, hold on 1 minute. There's something I want to talk. Hold on, wait a minute. I might talk about this. Let me talk about this real quick. I wanted to talk about it, but IMF staff visit Kenya for talks, potentially support program for digital cards. Absolutely, October 9th. Ooh, okay. Able to highlight yo. Ay. Ngojeni kidogo. There's something I want to actually show you guys. Huyu kijana was talking about it. Hold on, wait a minute. Let me see if I can find it. Unajua kuna vitu zingine na savingi hapa hata nasahau mambo inaendelea namna gani. Hold on kidogo. Nipekika kidogo hiyo ninio. It's about Central Bank of Kenya, okay? Because if you're going to have a central bank, central bank is actually, I think it's a private bank. It's not owned by Kenyans. Hold on. And we want to see, there's an article that does with, I want to read that, but hold on kidogo. Hold on kidogo tu. Ndio mama mimi naambianga, all right, hold on. Article 231. Let me hear what this guy was saying. He was saying something about the central bank, then September 25th to October 9th. Ooh, okay. Haya ndio hiyo, mnasikia. Let me hear what this guy, he's a young guy, he was one of the Gen Zs. Joshua Okayo, he's saying something. Let's hear it out. Okay.
Article 231 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 is one of the very important articles in the Constitution. Article 231 talks about establishment of Bank of Kenya. In Article 1, it talks about establishment, and then it talks about the mandate of the Central Bank of Kenya, and then in Clause 3 talks about the independence of the Central Bank of Kenya and the fact that the central bank is not under the control of any other, organ or body or individual. And then lastly, the very last provision under Article 231 talks about our currency. And it says, just to paraphrase, that notes and coins issued by the Central Bank of Kenya may bear the images of that depict Kenya or a part of Kenya, but shall not, mandatory, shall not bear the portrait of any individual. Now, I've been reflecting upon this article lately, and I've been asking myself, what if we did not have this provision in the Constitution? And we have the current person we have as a president in office right now, we would suffer. This person, William Ruto, would have printed money in his own image and likeness. And we would be seeing coins and notes bearing images of William Ruto. And he would be going around campaigning and telling Wamama and Wababa. And muna complain.
Hold on. This young gentleman, Joshua Okayo, I mean, he's talking about, hii mambo ya kuweka picha on the currency, like on the notes, which it's a non-issue for me. Whether you put picha ya Kenyatta, Uhuru, Jomo, Moi, Ruto, to me, that's a non-issue. The biggest issue is this. To me, the main issue is this about this, and I'll pull it up right now. I don't know I was talking to somebody, and he told me that all these central banks in the world, they are not under the specific country they are established. They are not actually the national bank, just like the Federal Reserve in the US. Federal Reserve is a private bank. And this guy told me, central bank, even in Kenya, it's not a national bank. It's actually a private bank. And let's look at that article he was talking about that talks about the central bank. Let's read it very quickly. Because this is, kumbuka, Raila told us that there's a digital currency that's coming, and it's not going to be actually a national currency, digital currency. It's probably going to be private. I've been saying this. Central Bank of Kenya also is not a national bank. It does not belong to Kenya. It's a private bank. Let's look at it. Hold on. Take a look at this. Let's read that article 231, okay? Right? Tuisome kidogo. Unajua article ndio sasa. Hiyo ndio Biblia. Mnaweza kuona hapo vizuri. Article. Part 7, Offices and Institutions, the Central Bank of Kenya, right? Si nimeona hapo kidogo. Haya, tusome pamoja. Hii ni Biblia. Biblia ya siasa. Okay. Number 1 says there is established the Central Bank of Kenya. 2, the Central Bank of Kenya shall be responsible for formulating monetary policy, promoting price stability, issuing currency, and performing other functions conferred on it by an act of parliament. Okay? So the monetary policy, promoting price stability, issuing currency, and performing other functions conferred on it by an act of parliament. That's number 2. Number 3, the Central Bank of Kenya shall not be under the direction or control of any person or authority in the exercise of its powers or in performance of its functions. Are you seeing number 3? I'm not worried about 4, 3, 1, 2. I'm worried about number 3. Okay, we can read number 4 for the sake of reading. Notes and coins. Number 4 is notes and coins issued by the Central Bank of Kenya may bear images that depict or symbolizes Kenya or an aspect of Kenya, but shall not bear the portrait of any individual. That's not a concern. I know that's what Okayo was really talking about. 5, an act of parliament shall provide the composition, powers, functions, and operations of the Central Bank of Kenya. So the parliament shall provide for the composition, I guess the president and whoever is in there, functions of the operations of the Central Bank of Kenya, right? I'm only troubled with number 3. Somebody help me with number 3. I'm speaking in plain English. So if you're a lawyer, maybe this means something else. I'll read it again. The Central Bank of Kenya, if you go to Article 231 of Kenyan Constitution, 2010 Constitution, sub-article, whatever, number 3, it says, the Central Bank of Kenya shall not be under the direction or control. Okay? Sorry. Let me start again. I was looking at something else. Number 3 says, the Central Bank of Kenya shall not be under the direction or control of any person or authority in the exercise of its powers or in the performance of its functions. Do I see some kind of problem here? Because number 2 says, the Central Bank of Kenya shall be responsible for formulating monetary policy, promoting price stability, issuing currency, and performing other functions conferred to it by the Act of Parliament. Then number 5 says, an Act of Parliament shall provide for the composition, who gets to be the president, who is the vice president, and who the composition of it, okay? Powers, functions, and operations of the Central Bank of Kenya. But number 3 says, the Central Bank of Kenya shall not be under the directions of or control of any person or authority in the exercise of its powers or in the performance of its functions. So here's the question. If the people of Kenya feel some type of way about the Central Bank of Kenya and say, hey, listen, we need the central bank to open its books. What's their policies? We don't know what's going on up here. We feel like there's some funny business happening there. Can we conduct a thorough audit on Central Bank of Kenya? Is that possible? Because the only function, the only voice of the people is through the what? The parliament, the National Assembly. These are the people who will represent the people. So, for example, if the parliament, through the people's, complaints, come up and say that, hey, listen, we feel like there's a funny business happening in the Central Bank of Kenya. Let's open up the books and see how these people are operating. What are they doing over there? Do they actually have the power to do that, to open the books of Central Bank of Kenya so we can see what's going on? Because number 3 says, the Central Bank of Kenya shall not be under the direction or control of any person or authority. So the parliament, do they have the authority of the central bank? I think not. The parliament only has the power to choose whoever is going to, or vet the person who is going to be the president, or they call him the governor of central bank. Functions of it, operations, how it operates, or whatever the case is, maybe, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. But anyway, the whole point is this. The Central Bank of Kenya, to me, from my understanding, there's limit as to what the public, the Kenyan public, can actually ask it to do, as far as if they want to know what's really going on in there. If they're cooking up books or doing some funny business in there, Kenyans have no real authority over it. It's really, just like the Federal Reserve in the US. The Congress cannot audit the Federal Reserve. Okay, that's the point I was trying to make. I wasn't trying to care about who was the image in the notes or currency. So the central bank, okay, the digital currency, if it's going to the NEO, it probably, I don't know. Raila said it's going to be private. I'll play it for the last time before I Nino, Raila's Nino speech about the digital currency, if you don't mind, because I think what he said was really, and it's so funny because when Raila came out with this Nino about digital token, people actually thought he was being hacked. Some people are saying this is AI. Can't be real. But here he is. But here he is. It's real. Alikuwa anatupatia what is to come. Just last, I know you, for those of you who have been here from the start, you heard this video, but I'll play it for one last time. Let's pay attention to what he was saying.
As the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, I'm proud to announce that we will soon launch a new digital coin, an ambitious step towards strengthening financial systems and supporting sustainable economic growth across Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. This initiative will empower young people by creating opportunities to learn, trade, and invest in cryptocurrency. It will also boost innovation, entrepreneurship, and wealth creation in the growing digital economy. Kenya is ready to lead Africa and the world into the future of finance. Thank you.
Okay. So he's telling us Kenya is going to lead Africa in the future of finance. What is obviously not clear is, basically, okay, I guess the central bank is going to produce it if it's a Kenyan thing. Just like I say, CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Hold on, let's look up. Like I said, this is going to be connected with the digital ID that is about to be brought. Okay, the 6K funds Raila promised was to be achieved through the CBD. A few days ago, Ruto adopted the idea. I bet my money that's how they will introduce it to Kenyans. Mark this. Okay. All right. So in summation, what I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, what I'm trying to say in not so many words is this. Okay. This is what I'm basically trying to say. Hold on. This is what I'm trying to say in summation. Britain, with their prime minister, he came out and, announced that digital ID identification is mandatory. Of course, there's a pushback on that declaration. Okay, the reason for this prime minister, the justification for digital millennium is, as I forgot to play you one video, but I'll go there. It's 2 hours already. I was trying to keep it 2 hours, but anyway, Great Britain prime minister came out and says that they are going to, everybody will be mandated to have digital identification. And there's a lot of questions, pushback against this. The justification is that Britain is suffering, they've been, the immigration problem is becoming, unbearable. Okay, so this digital identification thing will kind of solve the issue because they'll be able to identify who is there, who their papers are not straight or whatever the case is, so that they can actually control that issue. Now, and I drew parallels between that and what's happening in Kenya, especially the past few weeks or days or weeks or whatever the case is, where we have incursion by the terrorists from Somalia, Junjawid from Sudan, who have came into Kenya and they are causing a lot of chaos. Then there's this issue of Somalis, which is basically a non-issue, but the NIS PSYOPs are trying to psychologically, create an outrage from Kenyans to kind of make it a crisis, make it seem like, hey, we have an immigration problem here. There are Somalians who are being shown on X or TV or whatever the case is, any media, social media and whatever. I actually saw one who was talking greasy, talking about, oh, nitachoma flag ya Kenya, I'm inviting you guys to come watch, whatever the case is. Then we saw those two young men, 14-year-old and another, 17-year-old, who stepped on the flag of Kenya, whatever the case is. So here you see that the problem that is being presented to you there is we have an immigration problem. We have these Somalians coming to Kenya, because there's also another video that they show of these same young folks that were showing their Somalian passport and they're saying, F Kenya, Kenya's nini. Basically, what is being communicated there is through the governmental PSYOPs. They're basically trying to tell you that, hey, we have an immigration problem. So do not be surprised, just like Britain, the Kenyan government, which is known, Kenya being known to be the testing ground for the globalist agenda. Remember, when people were taking those shots, remember when people were in World Vision, whatever, Pimo Macho, and all sorts of things. We were one of the first countries to be shut down during the ile mugonjwa, okay? Okay, so don't be surprised if the next few days, or if not weeks, President Ruto or Raila or one of these governmental stooges, colonial stooges, will come out and say, hey, listen, we need to have digital ID in order to vote, or digital ID so that we can control this issue of immigration. That's the best way to track people, to see who's here legally, who's not here legally. That's the kind of thing they're going to do so we can have this thing here. And with the CBDCs, the central bank digital currency, I just played you a video of Raila Odinga. We gave that video last week and I made a video of it. I was like, why is Raila Odinga telling us about some digital tokens, digital currency? Why is he telling us about that? Of all the things that he could be talking about, why is he talking about this? Now it makes sense. Okay, he's basically psychologically preparing you, okay, so that, that telling you that in the few coming months, weeks, days, whatever the case is, the Central Bank of Kenya, which we have read there from Article 231, they shall produce a digital currency for Kenyans. Just like Raila is telling us, Kenya will be among the first countries, if not the first country in Africa, to produce that. Like I said, any globalist agenda that is being tested, Kenya is always the testing ground. One of the first places that they implement that agenda, whether it's the GMO foods in Africa, we start with Kenya, whether it's the IMF stuff, it's always Kenya, because Kenya, we are open to do whatever our colonial masters want through these colonial stooges that are forced, are unto us, imposed on us, the Rutos, the Railas, the Uhurus, the Karuas, the Wamalwas, the Gachagwas, the Matiangis. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. So let's prepare for that. In fact, in Trump's speech in the UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, he actually gave us a glimpse of what's coming concerning the digital identification. He just didn't call it that. He just called it AI something, which is a nice way of saying digital currency, digital identification. Of course, he won't say digital identification because majority of Americans will, get in the streets and, vote that down or just turn on him. So he had to say AI in order to. In fact, the funny thing is that when he mentioned that AI thing, his justification was, it will be a way of providing security, something silly like that. Okay, same thing as the Prime Minister of the UK. Okay, so you can see there's a trend. The agenda is we need to digitize not only currency but identification of the people of the world. Where do they start? They started with the countries that are easy to manipulate, to actually implement this globalist agenda, i.e. Kenya. Here it is. I think I have, this is about saying about global. But anyway, I'll leave it here, ladies and gentlemen. It's been 2 hours. Hold on. I'll leave it here, ladies and gentlemen. I want to keep on. Hold on. Anyway, I'll leave it here, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. I hope you enjoyed the session. It's been 2 hours. 2 hours, I think, is enough tops. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kenyan Revolutionary. Please do me a favor. Like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the good stuff. You can follow me on X. My name is Kenyan Revolutionary. Just follow me there or come to my YouTube and subscribe. Like, share, comment, tell your friends about it. And if you feel like talking about this stuff or other stuff that you want to talk about, here's a place for you. Come, subscribe, and put your notification bell on. That notification bell on, put it on. So every time I come in, like Mabry told me, every time I come in, he always find me here, okay? So come in there. I will always throw you the link. If you want to say something, I'll do that if I have time. Sometimes I do not have time. I'm just trying to talk about what's on my mind and keep on, because life is lifing, okay? So I have to do that. But anyway, like I say, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, like I said, the first order of business, if you're already subscribed, notification on and all that, like the video. Don't forget to do that. If this is your first time and you're watching this video on repeat, you're walking and you have your headphones on or your earpods or whatever the case is, like the video, share it to your friends. And if you feel like there's an issue that you want to talk about world politics as it relates to Kenya and you want to talk about it, I'll put the link on next time when I come in, okay? So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Abria, shout out to you. I hope you're doing well, wherever you are. I know it's kind of late, but you're here. Thank you so much. Golden Bazaars, thank you so much. And everybody else who was watching on X and other platforms, all right? So, thank you so much. I'll see you guys next time. Peace and blessings. I'm out.